sorry. We'll start with a softball foot treatment. So we're going to start with our feet nice and parallel to each other. Bring your shoulders up, back, and around. Allow your weight to be found even on each feet as best you can. As you close your eyes, begin to start noticing where your space is around you and below you. And just feel your footprints as they touch the ground. Do they feel even? So we're working on going into that internal side of the body, giving yourself permission to be aware, to be connected, to look differently than you would normally do. It's real easy to just run through things, but I want you to really start paying attention to the what, the why, and the how, and how the body responds. Notice if the weight on your feet is even from your heels to your toes. Good. Notice if you feel any shift of weight, like one foot feels further forward than the other, or feels turned out more than the other. As you stand there, as you take your attention up to your knees, notice if your knees feel, even though they may be straight, notice if they feel more knocked in or turned out, or maybe one leg feels more stiff or straight than the other leg. That's the key of setting yourself up, is you set yourself up to what you believe is right, and then we go inside to see what your body says about it. What are your glutes, quadriceps, and hamstrings feeling? Notice if they feel gripped or tight or pulled in. Can you release them with a nice, easy breath? Take a nice, even breath. And exhale. And lift up all 10 toes all at the same time and feel that shift into the ball mount of the foot and to the heel. And notice if it's more difficult to hold that weight. And then drop all 10 toes all at one time. And notice if there's a whoosh off to one side, or it just feels uneasy or unsettled. That's your reflexive balance telling you it's not quite ready to be centered. Go ahead and open your eyes as you can. You've noticed a couple of things, and we're going to take that ball and we're going to place it right under the center of that right foot. And we're going to begin to go side to side. So I want you to start finding that kind of that even pressure on both feet. So your right foot and your left foot are trying to find pressure. So obviously there's not a ball underneath your left foot, but you're going to try to actually put weight into your left foot, come out, put weight into your right foot, and you're equalizing pressure. So this is a grounding technique for your nervous system. So your nervous system kind of starts being more prepared to take in the information. Go ahead and pause and see if you can find balance between your right leg and left, even though there's a ball underneath one of the feet. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, take your arms to your side. Inhale again and exhale. Let your arms roll all the way around the midline of the body and come back up. So we're going to do position point pressing first, and we're going to move the ball to the knuckle behind the big toe. From there, you're going to press straight down onto that foot and then release the pressure. Move the ball to the second toe, press straight down underneath and push that knuckle up, and then come back up. Press straight down underneath the knuckle of the third toe, and then the fourth toe, press straight down. You may even notice the knuckle popping up and come up. If you don't notice it and it just seems swollen, then you've got some inflammation going on in the system. Move the ball to the inside step of that right foot. Now hide the ball and press down. So the ball's almost to the end range of that arch. And then release. Now you're going to take the ball straight up, but not quite to the knuckle, and press down. So it's not on the ball mount of the foot. Think of the arch almost like a question mark, and you're at the top hook of the question mark. And then release, taking the ball to the outside, so you're in between the pinky toe and the heel. Now I'm going to hide that ball again, and I'm pressing straight down into that part of the foot. Move the ball to the heel where the arch meets the heel, position point 5. Press straight down, put a little bit more pressure, take the pressure off, put the pressure back on, and let's begin to glide the ball back and forth. Make sure the standing leg is not gripped tight, but is slightly loose. So think of this movement as this is your dance. You can kind of move, you can be kind of creative with this. You may twist a little bit bigger a couple of times and a little smaller sometimes. So then you can move those hips if you want to, get a little sassy with it. Move that heel back and forth. You want that ball as best you can to come to either side of that heel. So it comes out from the outside edge, all the way to the back edge. And then back to position point 5. Breathing. From position point 5, you're going to put a little bit more pressure on that foot, and you're just going to tighten the wiggle up. So you're going to feel that ball tight, like you're kind of pushing back and forth on the ball mount of the foot, or the arch of the foot. And then pause again. Kind of let that tension release. Put the ball to the big toe knuckle and press to the heel. So we're rinsing. And remember, that rinsing pass is an even press back towards the heel, like you're pushing water. Remember, we're moving fluid flow into the body. The body is a fluid pump. We have force that needs to move that ball. And if we can get that force to really get kind of organized in the right direction, you can have an easier time with fluid flow. 2 more, and why not make your body have to work less? And last one, and then let's do friction. Friction, that multi-directional movement. Turn the foot in, turn the foot out, underneath the toes, to the heel, and then pause. Bring the feet back together, just to really just check in with the right and the left foot to kind of notice those differences. Notice that right leg may just feel nice and fluid, nice and even. The weight might even feel more balanced on both legs. Go ahead and open your eyes. Take that ball right through the center of position point 1 on that left foot. And again, you're beginning to try to find tolerable pressure. So again, if you find a tight spot in there, go a little slower. Maybe move the ball a little further forward, a little further back. Maybe by a half turn. Breathing. Make sure you're not gripping your glutes to hold. You're just kind of a nice, easy sway back and forth. Go ahead and pause with your foot right over the ball. Take your arms up over your head. Take your arms down. Roll your shoulders forward and roll. Circle your arms all the way up and around the body. Good. Move that right foot back. Move the ball to position point 2 behind the knuckle of the big toe and press down. And then release and press down. And release and then press down and release to the knuckle behind the 4th toe. And then the 5th toe knuckle, press down and release. Move the ball to the inside lower part of the arch, hide the ball and press down and release. Move the ball up just behind the knuckle of the big toe, press down and release to the outside edge between the pinky knuckle and the heel, press down and release. And then move the ball to position point 5, right at the top of the heel, press down a little bit further and begin that glide back and forth. Remember that glide, if you almost want to think of it as circles, and it's circling its way down towards the back of the heel, and then circling back up, kind of concentric circles or ovals back towards the arch. And again to the heel. And also the large soft ball is a preparatory ball for the large firm ball, for just a little bit more information, a little bit more context into that foot. Good. Back to position point 5. Pause, put a little bit more weight on that ball, and shift the ball back and forth. Now, it's a very tight wiggle. You're not trying to move the ball. You're not trying to give that dance in the hip like we did with the glide. Just a tight twist. And then pause and rinse. Move the ball to the big toe knuckle and rinse. Notice I'm lifting my back heel, almost so I can transfer weight and kind of shift the body into that natural pattern that it likes anyway. Walking is the most natural human pattern, as an adult, of course, but it's ingrained in us to want to walk, to move. 2 more. And last one, and let's do friction. Move that ball all around. Good. And then go ahead and pause. Let's recheck that baseline again. Bring those feet back to parallel. Now look at them again. They may seem a little bit more even just as you're standing there. Bring your shoulders over your hips. Close your eyes if you can. And just notice the legs may feel softer, less tense. Notice the weight of the feet may feel more like you feel the footprint of the foot on the ground instead of pieces or parts. The feet may feel even, so there's not one foot that feels like it's forward, even though you know you put them together. Take attention to the knees. Do the knees feel pressed back? Now, if you're in the military and you're used to that, that's going to feel very common to you. But most people need to feel like their knees are just kind of soft, easy. Hips should feel nice and lined up over the heels, not necessarily over the knees. And take a big deep breath and release. Inhale, pick up all 10 toes. Notice that shift back. See if it goes back nice and evenly, all as one piece. And then on the next inhale and exhale, drop all 10 toes. And notice if you just are able to just stand in better, more even balance. All right, go ahead and let's come down to the ground. Hopefully you had some good result there. Breathing. So we're going to do another check-in with the system, just kind of feeling the body, kind of connecting into the feet and the back of the thighs and the ribs and the head and shoulders. So as you come down, you can start with your knees slightly bent. Just give your body a chance to just let it rest into the ground. From this position, if you'd like, if your knees are bent, slide those legs out. Now, if you're on a regular mat, try to have your legs out about the width of the mat, arms down and low by your side with your palms up. These are actually techniques to feel the body in a very even position. If your arms are turned in, your shoulders are always naturally going to be rolled in as well. So let those hands, palms up, and you can see if the back is more open in general. Just feel the body. Once again, tune into the body and give yourself permission to go inside the body, allowing yourself to just rest onto your back. Feel how your body touches the ground. Remember, you have masses and spaces, the masses being your heels, your calves, your thighs, your hips, your ribs, your shoulders, your arms, your head. And then the spaces, of course, are between the neck, the lower back, the back just underneath the butt cheeks, the back of the knees, and at the ankles. Those are all spaces. And ideally, those would be even with each other. So the right side is even with the left, as well as the masses should be relatively even with each other in rotation, as well as and how they are anchored into the ground. If you've noticed those masses and spaces, let's start with those 3 areas of stuck stress. Now, stuck stress is just an overuse, a misuse, a lack of use of an area where the body holds tension and stress. And over periods of time, your body actually, like sediment, can build kind of resistance in an area. Or you can have acute issues where you overuse something quickly and then all of a sudden the body sees it as stress. Usually what we find is that you have a long-term something go on, you kind of disregarded it for long enough, then all of a sudden, kind of the typical straw that gets the camel's back, and it goes over too much for your body to deal with, and it seems acute even though that stress has been building in the body. So we call that almost chronic acute stress. And it's not very cute. It's actually not, it can be quite ugly. So from laying on the ground, just take your attention first into those shoulders and notice the weight of your shoulders on the ground. Ideally, from arm to arm, you should feel evenly weighted, and across the back to the base of the rib cage or the bra line, you should feel evenly weighted to the ground. But if you have stuck stress, you may feel high in the shoulders, like the shoulders are pulled back and the neck might feel tight. Or you may feel like all the weight is on the outside of the shoulders and then there's a hollowing between at the chest. Another area, if you have stuck stress living in the shoulders, is you feel all the bones sitting back and you don't really feel the even weight of the flesh. Taking a nice deep breath, taking your attention to your rib wall. Now your diaphragm is real important because obviously you breathe in and out of there, and you may notice that it ideally should feel like it's sitting on the ground and the weight comes all the way down to the navel. But if you have stress living in the diaphragm, either from movement in your intestines or your organs, or maybe you have stress from breathing or from being seated most of the day, You may feel like there's a wailing back arch or there's tension that's lifting your middle back off the ground. The third area that stuck stress loves to live is in the pelvis, and the pelvis, of course, affects a lot of the lower half of the body. Ideally, that pelvis should feel level to the ground with weight evenly on both butt cheeks. Hamstrings should touch the ground, and feet should turn out both east and west, and about like 10 and 2 on your right foot, or 2 on your right foot and 10 on your left foot. If you have stuck stress, you may notice that your pelvis feels tilted. You may feel like you're sitting on the bones of your sacrum. Your hamstrings may be feeling like they're off the ground, and your feet may feel disorganized, either pointing forward or one pointing off to one side, and maybe one ankle even touching the ground. Remember, there's ideal, there's what's common to you, and then there's what you're going to perceive actually from the inside that may appear different when you see it on the outside. Divide the body in half from ankle to ear on either side, and notice if one side of the body feels deeper into the ground than the other. Nice long deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Go ahead and slide your feet in. We're going to start with a rebalance. Ideally, you've noticed something about how your body's moving. You're going to let that roller be right next to your hips. Roll off to one side and lift yourself with bent knees up onto the roller. Go ahead and check and make sure your head is fully on the roller and your hips are on the roller as well. You can always notice if your feet are too wide or too close by putting them all the way next to each other, making a little triangle from your big toe down to your heel, and then re-leveling your feet. Your heel should essentially line up with the outside or inside edges of your shoulder. This time your palms are down with the hands on the ground, and you're going to begin with gentle rocking. Now, gentle rocking is a nice way to just bring calmness and evenness to the body. It's the first thing we always do when we get on the roller, especially when we get on the roller head to hips. The idea behind gentle rocking is really bringing balance to the right and left sides of the body and crossing that hemisphere. Breathe. Notice if you're moving evenly from nose to navel, or if you feel like most of the movement's coming from your lower body, or most of the movement's coming from your head and shoulders. You can move your head with this. Ideally, your head is staying with the roller and you're moving all as one unit. Notice if you're moving with the roller, or the roller is moving out from underneath you as if you're swinging on the roller. Ideally, you're just moving just gently back and forth. Taking a nice deep breath, inhale, and exhale, pause. Taking your thumb, placing them on your navel, index fingers on the top of your pelvis, and let the heel and the outside edge of your hands touch the bowl of your pelvis. You're going to begin with an exhale, tucking the pelvis, bringing the backside of the pelvis towards the roller with an inhale, and then an exhale, tilt the pelvis till the pelvis is more level on the roller. Inhale again, exhale, tuck the pelvis, inhale, exhale, tilt the pelvis back to the roller. What you want to look for is you want to notice if your head is doing a lot of the moving as well, or if you can differentiate a little bit more the lower half movement and the upper half. So you want to try to stay still in that head. And part of that is for just shifting that balance from everything constantly moving together and really getting some gentle difference between the lower half and upper half of the body. Also notice, do your ribs move a lot, or can you soften as you breathe and keep your ribs settled onto the ground, or onto the roller rather. Let your hands move with the pelvis. Let your body feel that movement gently forward and back. Leaving your left hand on the middle of the pelvis, take your right hand to your chest and begin to breathe through your rib wall. Exhale, think of sinking that rib wall back into the body. If the whole body was a cylinder from shoulders to hips, and as you breathe, you expanded that cylinder like a big, huge coffee can. And then as you exhale, you compress that cylinder all at one time to the size of a straw. So again, think of expanding the cylinder. And then exhaling, contracting. Inhale, expanding. And exhale, contracting. Breathing. Slide the hands down to your rib wall and just 1 or 2 breaths so you can feel your rib cage widen. And exhale. Soften. One more time. Inhale. Feel the rib cage expand. Feel the chest and back get broad. And exhale. Take your hands from your rib cage, reach them up and out towards your knees with your thumbs pointing slightly back towards your head. And then begin to take the right hand overhead towards the ground, but not quite to it. And then switch, bringing your left hand over your head. Notice you may have some tension in the upper part of the shoulder. Try to keep the arm out of that tensional pull and really just find where maybe you have some stiffness, because we're not trying to stretch. What you're trying to do is move that shoulder girdle to where it naturally will go right now, and then see if you can find some opening for some movement, some more space. Remember, the idea behind the melt is not just that we're moving for the sake of moving, but we're trying to bring hydration to the joints through the tissues, through the superficial fascial layer, just underneath the skin. Moving the interstitial fluid around, allowing for more movement and hydration of the tissues. Breathing. Remember, the 2 main ways we get our tissue and our fluid to move in our system is breathing and moving. One more time. Right arm comes up and over the head, and then left follows. And then bring your hands back into center with your fingertips over your navel. Fingertips touching. Pull your fingertips wide and apart from each other so your arms almost come to the ground. And then slowly bring your hands back in towards one another. Again, inhale. Pull those arms wide and apart from each other. And then bring those hands back towards one another. Once more. Pull those fingers wide and apart from each other. Breathing. Arms are wide. Almost feel like you have a weight in your hand, maybe a rock or a grapefruit. And you're beginning to drop your right wrist as you curl your left wrist in, and curl your right wrist as you drop your left wrist back. Don't lose that ball or that grapefruit. Elbows should be slightly bent. Breathing as to hold that whole ball with the entire arm, not just with the hand. You may just feel the weight more in your hands. And remember, it's an invisible weight, so you can drop the weight if you need to. Big deep breaths. Open that chest. Remember, the breathing moves the shoulders. Shoulders move the ribs. So all of that whole area really goes together. So if we get tight in the shoulders, we're going to get tight in the chest. We're going to get tight in the back. It's not one part all by itself. These parts interact and they talk to each other in a sense. That sometimes the talking is in pain. Good. Just curl those wrists in. Notice the weight of your arms getting heavier, maybe even towards the floor. And then pause. Just let your arms drop. You can drop that little invisible ball out. Let the shoulders settle back. Take a big deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. Let's go ahead and slide the right leg out from underneath you and roll off the roller nice and gently. Take that roller off to your side and we're going to recheck our baseline. We're going to recheck our body. So we move that roller right up through the midline of the body. So you may feel a little bit pulled down on either side, but I want you to notice those 3 areas. First, does your head feel like it's more heavily weighted back, like it's more in line with the body? Second, that first area of stuck stress, do those shoulders feel more broad against the ground, less pulled in, less kind of tight or unevenly weighted? In the rib wall, do you notice the ribs sinking and actually being weighted to the ground instead of floating off the ground? And in your pelvis, does it feel more even and more solid on the ground? And do your hamstrings feel closer? What about those feet? Do your feet feel like they're more evenly turned out right and left? Whether they actually are is not really part of the whole problem. They can come that way. It's your body wants to slowly perceive them that way so the body can come to more equanimity a little bit easier. All right, let's move on. Let's take that roller. Let's bring it underneath and behind the back of our legs, right to the center of those thighs. And we're going to let the weight of the leg rest onto that roller. From here, let the weight of the leg stay there. Just lift your feet off the ground and begin to draw those knees towards each other and then pull the knees away from each other. You can think of just keeping the legs in kind of one plane Or you can turn the toes out and turn the toes in, almost like a figure eight. Now remember, the back of the thigh is kind of a channel line for that sciatic nerve. And just this nice rhythmic action, just easy moving on, just opens up those muscles again and into the fascial layer and releases the tension of that nerve that flows right through the center of that thigh. So a nice, kind way to treat the back instead of digging in or pulling those stretches in. Even the stretches that you find, which are really can be very advantageous, that you might see on the internet and stuff, can be kind of aggressive in some situations. Or we can start doing the same stretches over and over again, and we're not really getting the same results. So it's nice to move and have different options to do. Go ahead and pause the leg, and let's just move one leg at a time. Again, you can move the leg just side to side, or you can kind of add like a movement like a figure eight, and so you're getting edges of that thigh. And then pause, and then let's do the other leg. Just pull that leg across and back. And notice it's not so much that you're just doing like a single leg jack, but you're pulling or almost stretching the skin on the roller. If you're skin to roller, it's a really nice feeling because you're getting kind of a twisting of the skin. Good. Go ahead and pause and let the legs just rest over the top of the roller. Slide those feet in, kind of hug those heels right up to that roller, and I want you to lift the hips up, bring the roller underneath you. So ideally what you're going to be on is on the roller so your pelvis feels the flattest or the most neutral. So you're not in a tuck and you're not arched in a tilt. So there should be no natural tucking right now because the roller shouldn't be too high towards your head or too low towards your tailbone. If you take your index fingers and place them on your iliac crest, the top of your pelvis, your thumbs wrap around, you should be able to kind of feel the top of the pelvis all the way around. From here, as you can, bring your right knee up over your hip and your left knee. Now here you may need to readjust the roller or maybe in the perfect spot. We're going to do an SI joint shear, and we're going to start with a very small circle of those legs. So we're keeping an invisible pencil between the knees, and we're just allowing our knees to make that circle on the ceiling. How's your rib cage? Can you keep your rib cage down? Can you breathe through the side walls and let your shoulders settle? Can you make this circle just a little bit bigger, like you're going towards the outside edges of your hips? Incrementally, we're making those knees go a little bit broader in that circle, not lower down. So we're not trying to bring the knees away from the belly or tuck the knees in towards the chest either. It's almost more of an oval shape. Slowly make the circle a little bit more narrow, smaller circles around. And then pause when you get back to the middle. Tilt the hips to one side. I've got my right cheek up. I've got my left cheek kind of on the roller. And I'm going to do one side is going to do a circle. So my right hip is off. I'm mostly on my left hip. And I'm really just around the outside of my SI joint. Good. Go ahead and pause. Bring those knees to pause. And then we're going to just clamshell the bottom leg out and in, as if we're opening and closing only the left knee down and back up. And then pause. And then bring those knees center. And let's go to the right side. Tilt your legs to the right. We'll begin with a small circle. And then we'll pause and just open and close the right knee this time. And again, pause and let the tissue respond. Bring the knees back to center. And then let's just from the center, you're going to march those knees. Moving my ankles because it feels nice. Good. And then pause again. Go ahead and drop your left foot, cross your right ankle over your left knee, and you're kind of in a figure 4 position. I want you to make sure that your right ankle is flexed. And I want you to slowly, you're going to place your right hand on your right thigh and just gently press out and away. As if you're just taking your thigh and just gently reminding it, you know what, you can just relax thigh, you can just relax hip, and you're just kind of using your hand from the inner part of the thigh to the outer part of the thigh, kind of touching the IT band out here, the TFL, and moving the thigh externally, just kind of drawing it away. Good, go ahead and pause, put your hand on that right thigh, gently, slowly, bring the left knee in, place your left hand on the left ankle, keep your right foot flexed, and you're gonna press outward into your right thigh as you press inward with your left knee. So that hand is moving out and up, like you're pulling the thigh out of the hip joint. Take a big deep breath, inhale, exhale, one more time, inhale, exhale, press that thigh up and away, sink the hips down just a little bit into the roller, and then release. Go ahead and lower the left foot down onto the ground, pause for a second, and then release the right ankle. Take the left ankle up and over the right knee, take the left hand, place it on the upper inner thigh, and press away. Remember, these movements sometimes don't initiate a lot of extra added movement, but they tell the brain in the direction that you want the rotation to happen. So you're allowing for some kinesthetic sense. You're allowing for some touch response. So the body gets the information, oh, I want to externally rotate. I want to open that hip. Breathing. Good. Pause with your hand at the leg. Bring the right knee into the chest. Hold the left ankle. Keep the left foot flexed. You're pressing up and away with the left hand as you're pressing in with that right knee. Inhale. Exhale. Again, inhale. And exhale. And then release and gently drop that right foot to the ground. Pause for a second. Maybe even notice the hips feel a little bit more released. Take that left foot and place it on the ground. Lift the hips up, move the roller out from underneath you, and lower your hips back to the ground. So again, we're going to do a reassess. Again, just kind of notice where your back is in space. Slide those feet out. Let the whole body just rest into the ground. Take your palms out wide so your palms are towards the sky. And again, remember those masses and spaces. Masses being heel, calves, hamstrings, glutes that may feel very low. The whole rib line may feel like it's settled and almost weighted to the ground. The shoulders, the head may feel more even with the shoulder girdle. Those three areas of stuck stress that likes to live there is those shoulder girdle, the rib wall, and the pelvis. Notice if you feel more evenly weighted across each one of those areas. And we spent a good amount of time on the lower half of the body, so that should feel a direct result. Should feel those hamstrings may be lower, hips may be more even. But the indirect, of course, should be the upper body. With that upper body reach and pull, we should feel more fluid in the arms and shoulders. Take a nice long deep breath in. Hear the sound and the quality of your breath. And then exhale. Let the hum engage that vagus nerve. Inhale again. And exhale. Remember, our body responds to sound, resonating movement, as well as just instinctual movement as well. So having that nice kind of volume of breath move through the body is real calming and softening for the body. Slide those feet in so the shins are vertical. Pause for a second. Shift your hips off to one side and roll yourself up.